COD
Shut the fuck up.
was at one point one of the best games of all time. I don't know about right now though. With that being said, I'm sure we've all had some fond moments in the OGs of the series, and I'm also sure that most of your first experiences with COD were either with an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3. Not me though. My first experience was World at War on a Wii. Yes, this game was on a Wii. And I did manage to beat it. I'm really not sure how, I'm being completely honest. It is still World at War, so the game itself was really good, and while I could make a whole video on that version of the game, including the infamous World at War grenade spam, I had something else in mind. Because my second experience with Call of Duty was Black Ops 1 on the DS. Yes, really, there is a Black Ops 1 on the DS, and back when I had an actual DS, I played this game. And I'm not kidding, it's actually pretty good. So even though Black Ops 6 just released some time ago, I'm not going to look at that because, come on, what do you think I am, an NPC? I'm instead going to look at the very obviously superior COD game. First though, I'll add some context. The actual Black Ops 1 released in 2010, and considering the specs of the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, like half a gigabyte of memory, or even half of that, and a decently good CPU, it's actually very good for its time, and I'd say it still holds up. The specs for the DS, though, include 4 megabytes of memory, 2 CPUs that are so minuscule they might as well not exist, 2 screens with a resolution of 256 by 192, and only half a gigabyte of storage in the cartridges, which comparatively is basically nothing. So Treyarch somehow had to fit a whole COD game within half a gigabyte and optimize it enough to run smoothly on something even worse than an Intel Celeron. And somehow they did it. It probably wasn't that hard because even though textures and models take up the majority of storage, when you only have a 256 by 192 resolution, you're quite literally just doing pixel art at that point, so I can't imagine the textures taking up that much space. But still, the fact that they did it is commendable, and despite the storage limit, they still managed to fit in a whole storyline, a multiplayer mode, zombies mode, challenges, and an arcade mode. Round of applause for that. So while I did play this game for real like 10 years ago, I don't have a DS anymore, and the one I had is probably gone in the ether. So to play this game now, I did the most unforgivable cardinal sin in history that would instantly send me to the 9th circle of hell. I played it on an emulator. Feel free to execute me in the comments. And I'm not sure if it was something with my settings, but there are other videos on this game that somehow look unnaturally HD, while mine looked like it had less squares than Tetris. But hey, at least I can say mine is more authentic. I'm mainly going to talk about the single player because the multiplayer, doesn't work, but I think the single player is just as interesting. There's a boot camp first, like any game, you learn how to crouch and run. And while it's probably the most basic form of movement ever, remember, we're talking about a f***ing DS here. They actually made the mechanics just as sophisticated as a regular COD game. Shoot, aim, grenades, a 180 button, and even throwing knives, which are actually kind of OP. Oh, and to top it off, there's collectibles you can get. The storyline in this version is very different from the regular game. Completely different characters and different plot. It's got the same idea though, like your character is recalling the events in the past the same way Mason did in BO1, minus the numbers. So in a way, I guess you can call this like some official spin-off. First mission has you go rescue Du Bois in Cuba, except of course it doesn't go correctly. So in the third mission, you escape through the catacombs and come out to steal a helicopter. But while that's happening, in the second mission, you play as the guy they're trying to save, breaking out of said prison, and you continue that in the fourth mission. In the fifth one, you're in that stolen helicopter going to save your bro that just broke out, because every storyline has to have at least one helicopter segment. Except after I died once or twice because I'm a shit pilot. In the sixth mission, you're with the Du Bois in the Vietnam jungle fighting the Vietnamese in the trees. But there's a brief flashback in the seventh mission on how your Russian friends switch teams in Afghanistan, which continues into the eighth and ninth mission. Flashback over, in the 10th mission, you're back in Vietnam in another helicopter doing the same thing as last time, and then in the 11th mission, you're in a boat doing also the same thing, but, you know, add some variety in there. And then you continue to find villages in the jungle in the 12th. In the 13th mission, you switch it up again, and this time you're in a jet doing the easiest mission ever, pressing this button whenever you hear the warning sound. Yes, really. Then you go with Du Bois to Russia in the 14th mission to do some good old-fashioned spying, and then in the 15th mission, you go to the super mega secret bad guy research office to blow up the place so they can't work. And then to conclude, in the 16th mission, you go to the Super Mega Ultra Giga Secret Bad Guy base to blow up their Super Mega Ultra Giga Secret submarine all by yourself. And credits. That's about as in-depth as I'm willing to go. You can go watch the 30-hour video that probably exists somewhere if you're into that. All things considered, 16 levels is very good for a short single player, especially when you remember that this is all in a DS. Did you already forget about that? Pay attention! But I do want to mention a few things about each of the missions. The first mission is a pretty good introduction into the game. For me, it was a pretty good introduction into how this game wasn't designed to be played on an emulator, because I had to bind the keys into a configuration that made sense on a keyboard, like the XYAB keys are how you look around, so I bound those to the arrow keys, while the D-pad was WASD. But even then, I had to constantly use the mouse as well to use the touchscreen, because the bottom screen shows the map, and is how you reload, switch weapons, and interact with things. So basically my fingers were aching by the end of it. Thankfully though, since the DS controls are similar to a regular controller, I was blessed with the power of aim assist. Otherwise I would have been screwed. Anyway, the first mission also has a wide selection of guns in it, like your M14, the classic AK, which has the shittiest iron sights I've ever witnessed, the one singular shotgun model, pistol, sniper, things like that. There's actually way more guns in this game than you'd expect from a DS game, so I'm actually impressed that there are this many. Some guns are exclusive to certain levels, like the MAC-10 I only found in the last level, the RPD is only in the Afghan levels, the RPG is only in the truck sequence, which is bundled with the most atrocious hit detection ever seen in history. Some are even more rare, like the XM22, which is only in one of the jungle levels and is never dropped by enemies. Throughout the game, you'll also see variants of these guns with some attachments, like most of them will have variants with scopes, but there's some with silencers and a few that have grenade launchers on them. By the way, the AK and the M16 with scopes are the best guns in the game, trust me bro. And it might just be because I was playing on an emulator, but the snipers were way too hard to aim with, so I always dropped them. Anyway, as I was saying, the first mission is a good introduction, and it's a good lead into the second mission where you're the guy that's escaping from jail. While escaping, the inmates tell you that you should try to be sneaky, so supposedly you might be able to do this mission entirely by stealth. Not me, obviously, I got spotted in 5 minutes, but, you know, maybe you can do it if you're a DS God. If you want to try to do it actually stealthy, then your go-to tactic will be the throwing knife, which you apparently have an infinite number of, because you can throw as many as you want. And since it's a one hit, regardless if you even just graze their foot, that makes the knife kind of OP. Not to flex, but I managed to get through half of the last mission entirely with the throwing knife. The only downside is that it does have a trajectory when throwing it, so you have to do the math in real time. So really, you have to try to throw knives at everyone before they see you. It doesn't even matter if they see their friend die, because they immediately get sent to the Shadow Realm, known as Erased from RAM. Also again, probably because of the emulator, but the enemies were weirdly accurate, even though I was playing on easy. Thank God for the aim assist, otherwise I definitely would not have been able to hit them. Also, most of the areas in this game aren't big, like they're usually corridor type areas. But occasionally there will be huge rooms that tank the performance because remember what we're working with here. Or, again, it could just be the emulator. At the end of the third mission, you get something unique in a COD game. A quick wave-based segment. Basically, you're in an arena, and before each round, you set up where your buddies are gonna stand and you just try not to get no-scoped. Even though this type of thing doesn't really fit into COD, I think it fits into this game, because remember, you have to view this game a bit differently than you would regular COD. Also in this level, you can see how Treyarch tried to optimize this game. They used the standard approach of having the entire level be an enclosed space, probably even separated into rooms that load in and out if you can't see them, plus the skybox in the outside. It's a tried and true method that can still make the levels look good. A small thanks to the truck part for being extra tricky because the hitbox on this helicopter is abysmal. And special thanks to this beach part at the end of the fourth mission for being the hardest part of this game, because enemies spawn forever until you push through, and at that point you have no ammo. Like, I swear I died here at least 20 times. Thanks, Treyarch. Finally, a unique mention to the very last level. It is one of the harder levels because it's quite long and you have to do everything on your own, but also because the second half has a time limit. Because remember, you're trying to blow up the Super Mega Ultra Giga Secret Submarine, and for some reason, you only gave yourself a generous 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Good luck. So to make it back, not only do you have to hurry up, but you also have to have decent aim to get through all the guys that want to stop you, which is a particularly bad combination for me. Pro tip from me, the MAC-10 in this level is actually very good, so use that. Also, part of me thinks that you might be able to do this level with stealth, because when you drop in, no one knows you're there and the enemies have walk patterns and such, so maybe it's possible. I got spotted immediately, of course, but, you know, someone let me know if you managed to do it. Thankfully though, since this is the hardest level and also the last level, when you do manage to beat it and you see the credits roll, it's perfect. Applause for Treyarch. The vehicle levels are a classic COD thing, basically every game has had them, except for the jet one. I don't recall any CODs having that. One quirk of the helicopter levels is that you can move left and right, except for the fact that there's literally no point, it's just a why not feature. The helicopter goes in a programmed path anyway. In the levels, there's these rocket launchers that will try to shoot you, and I swear that they hit you regardless if you move or not. So really you just have to destroy them before they shoot you because you can actually die. Sorry, no plot armor here. In the jet level, it's even funnier because moving is so excruciatingly slow that it's not even worth it. And it's not like the helicopter ones where you can at least aim. This crosshair stays near the middle and barely moves. Thankfully though, you're not required to actually shoot anything. Quite literally, all you have to do is press the dodge button anytime you hear the warning sound. I guess doing a barrel roll is the equivalent of enabling God mode for a few seconds. The boat level is nothing special though, it's just a boat. Anyway, that's everything about the single player part. Props to having all that on a DS. A brief mention of the other modes, they're exactly as they sound. In challenges, you have a set of challenges to do for each level. In arcade mode, you play through the single player levels normally, except that you have a limited number of lives and a score. Zombies mode is just like regular Black Ops Zombies, a tried and true classic. I mean, the fact that there's even a Zombies mode is a cool addition. There's 4 different maps, and they all somehow manage to feel at least a little spooky, given that you can literally see all the squares in the display. Although due to my unconventional control scheme, boarding the windows with the mouse while trying to move and shoot with one hand didn't work, so I never made it that far. And last but not least, there's the multiplayer, which seemed to be fully decked out with 5 game modes, tons of options, and way more maps than I thought there would be. Oh, and as a bonus, you can even do a zombies game with 2 players. Neat, right? Well, that's if you had working internet. I don't, and no one has since 2014, so rip. But there are a few videos on YouTube that show it working, and it looks pretty fun. That's if you don't end up in a game with Enderheist because he's cracked at this game, probably max prestige. And then there's a series of videos by Nike where he plays co-op zombies, and it's recorded in probably the best way possible. I'll give it a like. So yeah, that's Black Ops 1 on the DS. I think it's actually well made, and you should too. You don't have a choice. Actually, Black Ops 1 isn't the only COD to be put on a DS, and it's not even the first. There's 5 different CODs that have a DS version, including COD 4, World at War, MW2, and MW3. I haven't played those, but if BO1 is anything to go by, I'm sure those are good too. Maybe I'll try them someday. I would recommend you try this one out at least. If you got an actual DS, even better, but if not, you can use an emulator. Don't worry, no one's gonna riot. But anyways, bye.